Well, thank you very much. And it's good to be again with our friends in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Despite the fact that this is an extraordinarily difficult time in the international community, it causes us to remember the importance of the decision taken by Saudi to convene an early summit of the G20 in March of last year to deal with the COVID crisis. That was an important decision because the G20 is an important institution. To remind all those who are participating in the FII this year of the critical nature of the G20, of which the Kingdom is a member. Number one, the G20 represents some 90% of the global economy. It represents some 80% of global trade, and it represents some 2/3 of the world's population. In past history, during the global financial crisis, it was the mechanism through which the global economy was rescued from a depression. And therefore, the machinery we've had available to us for the last 10 years remains critical for the future as well. When we look at that decision taken by the Kingdom in March last year to convene G20 leaders, the outcomes were also important. Support across the world and the G20 leaders for the COVAX initiative, support for the G20 action plan, support for the Debt Suspension Service Initiative, the DSSI. These are in fact critical pillars for the future and dealing with recovery from the COVID-related recession. Of course, the G20 will only work if all member states are committed to making it work. That's why it's been encouraging to hear recent statements by China's leader Xi Jinping committing China afresh to the rejuvenation on a continuing basis of the centrality of the G20 as a core institution of global economic governance. And those, in fact, were statements delivered by Xi Jinping only recently in his address to the Davos summit in Singapore. Of course, with the incoming Biden administration, there is a parallel commitment to making the G20 work for the future. We should all remember the G20 was ultimately an American creation back in 2008-9, initiated by President Bush and consummated by President Obama. And so with the election of President Biden, there is an opportunity to bring together the combined commitments of the Chinese and the Americans to make this work. So let's look to the future. 2021 is, of course, the year of the Italian presidency, and the challenges which lie before the G20 and the world at large for this year remain formidable. But I would simply highlight two or three of them. One, in my argument, we need to have an early convening of the G20 during the Italian presidency. And that is because COVID has not yet been wrestled to the ground. There are still grave difficulties across the world in the delivery of sufficient vaccine supplies and the distribution of those vaccine supplies to all governments around the world in both developed and developing countries, seeing the vaccine as in fact a global public good. Of course, beyond that, there are other challenges as well for the G20 this year, and that is to ensure continued strong macroeconomic management globally as we deal with the impact of debt on the global economy. But the third one also, consistent with the resolution of the Saudi summit last year, is for concerted global action on climate change. We've seen President Biden committed to Build Back Better. We've seen China's commitment to mid-century carbon neutrality, similarly with the United States. Therefore, this is the third reason why an early convening of the G20 in this year, the G20 in the year 2021, will be critical for the future of the global economy, future for global debt management, future of global health, and also for dealing with the common challenge of us all in terms of the sustainability of the climate. It's been a pleasure to address you here at the FII once again, and my good friend Yassir, and all of our friends in the Kingdom, and I wish you well for this important gathering in this most difficult year for the world at large.